Hey guys, I hope you all are having a fantastic day. As you can see, spring is finally here in the DC area. You guys all probably are under quarantine just like myself. We've been basically under quarantine for almost 30 days here in North America because, as you know, coronavirus. However, Jeep has definitely just brightened up my day because they just dropped off this 2020 Gladiator Mojave. And if you guys had seen our video about the taking delivery of our 2020 Subaru Outback, which replaced our Tesla Model 3, this is essentially the car that probably would make my husband regret buying the Subaru Outback. So let's figure out why that is. So I brought my husband with me because he's the reason why I wanted to basically say that we may regret buying the Outback. Well, you tell him, honey, why do you think that?
Because this is just more manly and rugged.
It is very manly, it is very rugged.
Yeah.
And we definitely need to take it off-road because this truck looks good, but it'll probably look better with a little mud on it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that really wasn't much of an off-road course, but come on, I live on the East Coast and there are just simply no deserts around here, and with the country shut down, it's kind of hard to actually go out to a few of those off-road trails because most of them are closed. So, to show you guys a different side of the Gladiator, I am now out on the road in normal conditions where people are going to be typically driving these things. It has the typical Jeep qualities, but of course this is going to be focusing more on the Mojave and how it's different versus a Rubicon in terms of, remember, the shocks, the wheels and tires, the overall look on the outside, the suspension tuning. Out on the road, it makes this car surprisingly nice to drive. The 3.6 liter Pentastar V6, you guys are pretty familiar with this powertrain. It makes around 290-ish horsepower. It revs really nicely. In fact, out of the entire Jeep portfolio, the Wrangler Gladiator portfolio, this actually has the best sounding engine, surprisingly. Because the diesel V6 doesn't really make much in terms of noise. The e-torque 4-cylinder turbo doesn't really make a noise either. So the V6 is the one that really likes to be revved out. It has a really smooth, quick shifting 8-speed automatic. It's the ZF automatic. It's a good powertrain. You can also get this with a 6-speed manual transmission, of course, as well. But most people may end up getting this with the 8-speed auto, which is a really good powertrain combination that, you know, the majority of people are going to be super happy to drive this thing around town. Now, in terms of the ride quality and the feel, this is very similar to the last Rubicon that I drove. Out on the road, I don't really feel too much of a difference. The suspension is definitely bumpy in this car. It reminds you constantly that it has, live axles front and rear. It's got a recirculating ball type steering because it's very slow. You kind of just want to cruise along in this car at lower speed. So if you're one of those people who get too many speeding tickets or need a car that, you can drive slowly in and still put a smile on your face, the Wrangler and Jeep Gladiator are one of those vehicles because you just want to tootle around town in this thing going the speed limit or less because it's such a really nice car, to just drive slowly. And the cool thing about owning a Wrangler or a Gladiator is everybody in the Jeep community, whoever owns a Wrangler or Gladiator, pretty much waves at you as you drive down the road. It's a pretty cool thing to experience. It kind of shows a sense of pride. I think that's why the Wrangler Gladiator has been such a huge success, in America or across the world. It's just a car that has a huge cult following. And you know what? The Mojave version has some nice styling tweaks to it, but I'm kind of leaning more toward the Rubicon version just because I don't think that the Mojave, unless you're regularly taking this thing out on desert roads where you can go high speeds in it, I don't really think it's, something that most people are going to be doing in their Jeep anyways. And as you can see, the Gladiator Mojave is a new addition to the Gladiator lineup. This is basically the desert rated, the first ever Jeep that's desert rated. It's kind of like Jeep's Ford Raptor competitor. It looks very similar to a Rubicon, aside from the fact that it says Mojave here. It's got some orange badging and it's got some unique Fox 2.5-inch shocks. It's also an inch taller at the front of this thing. And I have to say, painted in this shade of hydro blue, this is one fantastic car. Now, of course, things aren't all bells and whistles and smiles here. This truck stickers for a little over $63,000. And I have a huge problem with the price tag, not only for it being expensive, but for that money, I have remote entry, but it doesn't actually have intelligent access where you can basically push a button on the door. It's an extra $500 bucks a la carte option to add that to a truck that's already $63,000. But as you can see here, what other truck lets you take off the roof, the doors, fold the windshield down, and basically give you that convertible lifestyle? It's one of the reasons why these Wranglers and Gladiators basically get stairs everywhere you take them. You ready, Bug? You ready, Cedar? So I decided to let Blakely drive so I could actually film.
No, you
a few.
didn't let me drive.
Well, I also wanted to film, and we noticed one big thing. For $63,000, this car is missing what? Blind spot monitoring,
Well, basically
adaptive cruise.
everything that the Subaru comes with its standard.
Yeah, this
Like
has
driver
no
assistance.
driver assistance, which it's optional. It's like
Yeah.
$1,500 extra, so this
Yeah.
could be a $65,000 truck,
Yep.
which is probably one of the reasons why we didn't get it, because this
Well,
is a lot more money.
It is. Yeah, I would agree.
Your hair looks fine, honey.
No. Okay, wait. All right.
So babe, we just passed that white Raptor over there. Why wouldn't you buy the Raptor over this? Just a quick reason.
This is more fun.
Why? Because the roof comes off?
Yeah, it's obvious. This is more fun. Like this is when I was a kid. This is what I grew up wanting.
Was a Wrangler.
Yeah, because it was like my little army toys and stuff.
But this is slower than the Raptor.
So,
It's okay.
yeah. So who cares?
So we just drove about 40 miles in the Gladiator, and I can already tell why I personally think that we made the better choice with the Outback. Blakely might disagree with me because he still loves the way this car looks, but as you can see from the messed up hair, it's a little windy in here with the roof part off, with all the windows down. The steering is a little wandery in this car as well. It's a little wallowy out on the road, which, to be fair, this car is built better to be driven off the road. And the trip computer says we've been averaging around 14.6 mpg, which is horrible. It's about half what the Outback would get. I mean, also, I don't think these seats are very comfortable, honey. What do you think?
They're not. I keep readjusting and finding myself doing this.
Yeah, I mean,
not that
could you
great.
imagine driving this car on a long, like 7-8 hour road trip? It would be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Which is why
Yeah.
we went with that Outback, because it's way more comfortable,
Right, yeah.
even though it's not as fun.
Yeah.
And check this out, guys, with the brick shape of this thing, look at all the dead bugs all over the windshield. Because this thing, again, has the aerodynamics of a brick. So one of the big problems about having a desert-rated Jeep and being on the East Coast here in the Shenandoah area, there aren't really any deserts to speak of, but we did find a couple of dirt roads and gravel roads. And as you can see, my husband is sitting there all comfortable inside the Jeep, and it looks a lot better dirtier, that's for sure. But we're also kind of on roads that a Ford Focus can drive on. Now, high-speed gravel, dirt, desert roads are basically where the Gladiator Mojave are going to shine, because remember, we've got those upgraded 2.5-inch Fox Racing shocks with the bypass reservoirs. It's got about a 1-inch lift on the front. Jeep also deleted the front sway bar disconnector and the locker in the front, so you only have a locker in the back. It also has a different crawl ratio, again, to help with that high-speed stability, and mostly the shocks are going to help this thing with absorbing the bumps, because as you guys know, that's what people tend to break when they're going high speeds off-roading. The shocks tend to get damaged when you're going over bumps at high speeds. So while the Jeep Gladiator Mojave may not be too comfortable out on the road, on the highway, take it off the pavement onto some gravel roads, or more specifically desert roads, which unfortunately here on the East Coast, we don't really have much in terms of deserts. However, I have found this pretty nice gravel road here, and this is kind of where you can test out the new shocks on the Mojave, because this thing has the 2.5-inch Fox bypass shocks. And going over these gravelly roads at higher speeds with these all-terrain tires and the 11.6 inches of ground clearance, it feels like I'm just traveling on a cloud, basically. The shocks do their job at absorbing all the bumps. The truck has amazing high-speed stability out on these conditions. And to be honest, I just wish I lived out on the West Coast, because I really want to go faster out here on roads like this. And that horribly loose steering that you noticed on the road, out here on a gravel road, you actually really like the steering to be like that, because whenever you hit like a sharp bump or a rock or a pothole or anything that's kind of knock the wheel out of your hands, because it has such a slow ratio, the wheel doesn't jitter around in your hands, which is technically what you want when you're off-roading. But really, I'm just super impressed with the ride quality in this thing. Where this car is a little bumpy and jittery out on smooth pavement, when there's some bumps on the road, the shocks do their job to really absorb the bumps. You can kind of just sit here, and honestly, a lot of people could probably just fall asleep in this car, depending on how fast you're going or whatever conditions you're on, you know, in these types of off-road situations. Whoa. And that is why you buy one of these Jeeps, because things in the road, objects in the road, puddles in the road, they don't really mean much to you. You just drive right through them. In fact, the car looks a little bit better with some dirt on it. All right, guys, so there you have it, the 2020 Jeep Gladiator Mojave. Beautiful truck, love the color, love the way it drives, especially off the pavement. I think that the Mojave represents an interesting choice if you guys live in the desert and plan to actually take it into desert-like conditions. For the majority of us people who live in normal conditions, gravel dirt roads are probably the most that these trucks are ever gonna see. For that reason alone, I'm probably just gonna say you're better off just getting the Rubicon version. Until Jeep actually stuffs a bigger motor in the Mojave, like a Hemi V8 or a twin turbocharged V6 or a supercharger on that V6, I find very little reason to choose the Mojave aside from, you know, the different styling treatments, the upgraded shocks, which again, if you plan to take this thing to the desert and need those upgraded suspension components, this is definitely the truck you want to get. But at $63,000, it's certainly a pricey one. And keep in mind, you can also buy a Ford Raptor for basically the same money, although I know Ford dealers are charging sticker or more for a Raptor versus the Gladiator. Dealers are now taking $5,000 to $10,000 off sticker, depending, of course, on where you live. But with all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video on the 2020 Jeep Gladiator Mojave. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.